On Thanksgiving Day, I arrived at my parents' house holding my daughter's tiny hand and a store-bought pie we couldn't really afford. Leaves crunched beneath our feet. The scent of roasted turkey and cinnamon drifted through the door. I smiled. This was the first time in years I was brave enough to show up. But when the door opened, it wasn't warmth that greeted me. It was my sister. She looked me up and down, wrinkled her nose, and leaned against the frame like she owned the place. "There's no room left for you," she said, with a smirk. Her voice sharp enough to cut marrow. I blinked. I RSVP'd. Mom said. She changed her mind. My sister interrupted. "You know how tight things are. Just go." My daughter looked up at me. Her lip trembled. We turned, walked away. "My name is Rachel Monroe. And if you think you know how this ends, stay tuned. What happens when your family treats your child like a burden?" I strapped my daughter into the car seat, hands shaking. Her dress, the one she'd picked out with so much excitement, was already wrinkled. She didn't cry. She just whispered, "Maybe Grandma forgot me." That shattered something deep. We drove away from that house, from the porch I once sat on as a teenager, from the kitchen I used to help clean after every Thanksgiving meal. But I didn't even make it a mile down the road when my phone buzzed. Dad. I almost didn't answer. But something in me, call it habit, hope, or exhaustion, swiped right. His voice was low, urgent, almost shaking. "Rachel, come back. But come alone."
What?
"Why? You need to see this."
Click.
I pulled over. My heart thundered. My daughter asked, "Are we going home?" "No, sweetheart," I whispered. "Mommy just needs a moment." I turned the car around, and when I walked through that front door an hour later, without my daughter, what I saw changed everything I thought I knew about my family. The front door creaked open like it was holding its breath. The house smelled like gravy, pine candles, and lies. Inside, laughter echoed from the dining room, plates clinking, wine being poured, stories told at my expense. I was sure. I expected Dad to meet me at the door.
He didn't.
I stepped inside.
Slow.
Quiet. It didn't feel like a homecoming. It felt like a setup. Then I heard footsteps from the hallway. My dad appeared, eyes sunken, face pale. The man looked like he hadn't slept in days. He didn't say hello, just motioned for me to follow him. We walked down the hall, past the coat closet, past the guest bathroom. Then he opened a door I hadn't seen in years, the old basement entrance. He turned on the light, and what I saw made my stomach drop. A second dining table, set for 12. Cloth napkins, name cards, full buffet, lit candles. It was beautiful, better than anything upstairs. "Who is this for?" I asked. My dad looked at me, his face contorted in shame. "Your sister planned this. She told us she wanted a family-only dinner." My chest tightened. "So, what was upstairs?" "She told everyone that was the official dinner. The one with photos and show. But this," he waved around, "was meant to be her real Thanksgiving." I felt like I couldn't breathe. "She said you wouldn't come. Said you'd flake like always. Said your daughter would just make things awkward." He hesitated, then whispered, "But when I saw her take your name card off the table this morning, I knew something wasn't right." My voice cracked. "And Mom? She let this happen?" He didn't answer.
Didn't need to.
Because just then, I heard her laugh from upstairs, that high, performative giggle that always sounded louder when she was hiding something. That's when I noticed something else on the table. A gift box, wrapped in silver, labeled "To Rachel from all of us." I opened it slowly. Inside was a single envelope, and in it a legal document, my name scratched out in ink. A will, rewritten, without me. I stared at the will like it was a knife I'd forgotten was still in my back. My name, once listed alongside my sister's, was now blacked out in heavy strokes. In its place, a single line. All personal and estate assets to be transferred to Madison Jane Caldwell. My sister. All of it. The house. The savings. The lake property. Even my grandmother's ring, the one she swore I'd inherit.
Gone.
Erased. Like I never belonged. My dad sat down heavily in one of the empty chairs. I didn't sign it, he said quickly. She brought it to us 3 months ago. Said it was for cleaning up the estate. Said you were doing fine now, didn't need anything. I scoffed. She told you I was fine? I was working 3 jobs and skipping meals so my daughter could eat. His hands trembled. I didn't know. Your mother, she signed. Of course she did. Mom always followed Madison's lead. It was easier than confronting her. What about the ring? I asked, voice low. Dad looked down. She has it. That ring was my grandmother's most precious thing. She used to say, this is for the girl who keeps her dignity, no matter what they throw at her. I never imagined she meant I'd have to keep it from her own daughter. I stood up. My legs were shaking, but my rage steadied me. From upstairs, I heard my mother call out, dinner's ready. Then my sister's voice, syrupy sweet. Let's do family photos before the food gets cold. I walked toward the staircase. Rachel, wait, my dad said. Please. Let's keep this quiet for now. I turned to him slowly. No, I said, voice cold. Not anymore. I climbed the stairs 1 step at a time. Each step peeled away another layer of guilt I'd been carrying for years. When I reached the top, I saw them all in the living room, smiling, posing. The camera flashed. Then I stepped into the frame, and the room froze. Forks stopped midair. Jaws dropped. My sister's smile cracked. I looked straight at her and said, isn't it funny how ghosts show up just when you're trying to bury them? Madison recovered fast, like she always did. She tilted her head, gave me that trademark fake smile, and said, oh, you came back. Where's the kid? Home, I replied flatly. Where she's safe. My mother jumped in, voice tight. Rachel, this isn't the time. No, Mom, I said, loud enough to silence the room. It's exactly the time. I turned toward the guests, cousins, neighbors, even Mom's church friend who used to slip me extra cookies as a child. Quick question for the room, I said calmly. Did you all know there were 2 Thanksgivings today? Whispers stirred. Faces turned. One upstairs. One downstairs, I went on. One for pictures, and one that used to have my name on it. Madison's voice cut sharp. You're making a scene?
No.
I'm making it clear, I said, walking to the fireplace where family photos lined the mantel. I picked one up, a framed shot of us as kids. She'd always been the golden one. Hair in curls, teeth straight from braces.
Me?
Slightly crooked smile. A little too quiet. A little too much. You convinced them I was unworthy, I said, still facing the mantel. You planned this entire day without us. You doctored a will. You had my name removed. I turned around, locked eyes with her. You crossed out my entire existence. My mom gasped softly. That's not true. Dad walked in behind me, holding the opened envelope. He didn't say a word, just held it out like a man finally ready to stop lying. The silence turned heavy. Then my aunt spoke, hesitantly. Is this real? Madison scoffed. You're seriously taking her word over mine? I'm not asking anyone to pick sides, I said. I'm just letting you know. I'm done staying quiet while you sell the idea that I left this family. I walked over to the piano and gently placed the will on top of it. You want it all, Madison?
Take it.
The ring, the house, the estate. But one thing you'll never own, I looked her dead in the eye, is the truth. And with that, I walked out the front door. But this wasn't over. Because while she'd spent years erasing my name from paper, I was about to write it in places she couldn't touch. The next morning, I dropped my daughter off at school and parked in front of a coffee shop I used to clean at night. Same street. Same cold wind. Different me. I pulled out my laptop, opened a blank document, and titled it, The Thanksgiving That Wasn't. I wrote everything. Not as a victim. As a witness. I told the truth about the years Madison isolated me, about the small lies she fed to my mother until silence became a weapon, about how I was written out of a will before my daughter ever got a seat at the table. It wasn't revenge. It was a mirror. And when I was done, I hit publish. I didn't expect much. A few reads, maybe some quiet support. But something strange happened. The post exploded. Within hours, comments flooded in. This happened to me, too. I'm the forgotten sister. I cried reading this. Thank you for telling it like it is. By day's end, the post had 48,000 shares. By the next morning, it was being read live on a podcast about family estrangement and toxic siblings. I didn't name names. I didn't need to. But Madison knew. Because that night, she showed up at my apartment building, pounding on the glass door like a storm. Open up, she hissed through the intercom. You're ruining my life. I didn't buzz her in. Instead, I picked up the intercom receiver and calmly said,
Funny.
That's exactly what you tried to do to mine. You told lies.
No.
I just stopped protecting yours. She screamed something, I couldn't make it out. But I saw her throw her hands in the air and storm back to her expensive SUV. I didn't flinch. I went upstairs, tucked my daughter into bed, and kissed her forehead. Did Grandma and Aunt Madison say sorry yet? She asked sleepily. I brushed her hair back. No, baby, I whispered. But they will. Because by now, word was spreading in ways I hadn't even imagined. And Madison? She was about to learn something real. When you bury a girl alive with your silence, she doesn't come back quiet. 2 days later, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Journalists, bloggers, even a local news anchor who used to babysit me. Everyone wanted the anonymous daughter behind the viral post. Somehow, they figured it out. I didn't hide. I agreed to one interview, one camera, one mic. The producer was kind, but her last question lingered. Why speak now? I looked into the lens, steady and calm. Because staying quiet never protected me. It only protected the people who hurt me. The clip aired that evening, and within hours, Madison's curated world began to split at the seams. The first blow came from her job. She'd been up for a nonprofit board position. Family-oriented, public-facing. They rescinded the offer. The second blow came from her friends. Screenshots of her text surfaced. Nasty, smug, bragging about cutting the dead weight from her life.
Me.
My daughter. The final blow? From the lawyer. A firm she'd hired to draft that revised will issued a public statement distancing themselves from her unauthorized alteration of family documents. Translation. She forged our parents' signatures. It all unraveled. One headline read, Golden Daughter No More, Viral Family Betrayal Story Sparks Backlash. I didn't gloat. I didn't throw parties. I just went to work, picked up my daughter from school, made dinner and lived. Because healing isn't loud, but it is powerful. Then one evening my mom showed up at my door. No warning. No call. Just there. She looked smaller than I remembered. Like regret had shaved off pieces of her. I let her in. She stood by the window and whispered, I read everything. I said nothing. I let her talk me into so much, she continued. I told myself it was easier to go along with it. I thought you were strong. I thought you didn't need me. A tear slid down her cheek. I was wrong. I nodded slowly.
Yes.
You were. She reached into her purse and held out a small velvet box. It was Grandma's ring. She made me give it to Madison, she said. But it was never hers. I took it. Not for revenge, but because it had always been mine. And because the woman I used to be, she finally got to wear something that fit her worth. The ring felt like closure. But closure's funny. It doesn't come with parades or apologies. Sometimes it's just a quiet morning and a decision not to carry their weight anymore. Still, one final thread remained. The will. Even though Madison's version had been exposed, the legal damage lingered. My parents' estate was still a mess. No proper witnesses. No executor. Just chaos. So I filed a petition in court. Not for revenge. For correction. I didn't want the whole estate. I just wanted truth written in ink, not scratched out in bitterness. Madison showed up at the hearing. Her hair undone. Eyes hollow.
No audience to charm this time.
She sat 2 rows behind me, arms folded, like the courtroom owed her comfort. The judge read through the documents, took his time. Then he looked directly at my parents. You allowed your daughter to be removed from your estate without verification. You signed nothing. You confirmed nothing. You said nothing. My mother's voice was barely a whisper. We trusted her. The judge wasn't moved. You also neglected to list your grandchild as a beneficiary. Is that correct? My father cleared his throat. We didn't mean to cut them out completely. Intentions don't hold up in court, the judge replied. He turned back to me. Miss Monroe, do you wish to challenge the current version of the will? I stood. Yes, I said, voice clear. Not to take more, but to restore what was stolen. My name, my daughter's future, and my family's integrity, if there's any left. He nodded slowly. Petition granted. Original will to be restored. Illegal amendments voided. Grandchild will be added as secondary beneficiary under the new structure. Madison shot up from her chair. You've got to be kidding me. The judge didn't even look at her. This court is not interested in your dramatics, Miss Caldwell. Bang of the gavel.
Done.
I walked out of that courtroom not richer, but freer. And when I stepped onto the sidewalk, sunlight hit the ring on my finger just right. I lifted my phone, opened a blank note, typed the final line for the post I hadn't yet published. You can rewrite the will. You can black out my name. But ink fades, and truth always bleeds back through. Thanksgiving came around again. Exactly 1 year later. Same cold breeze. Same sky. But everything else? Different. This time, I didn't show up carrying pie and hope. This time, I hosted. Our home was small, a 2-bedroom apartment with creaky floors and hand-me-down furniture, but it was filled with real warmth. I cooked all day with my daughter. She made name cards in crayon, burned the rolls, made me laugh until I cried. We invited neighbors, friends from her school, 2 single moms I'd met through a community support group. Everyone came. Everyone brought something. Everyone was seen. Midway through dinner, my daughter stood on a chair, tiny fork in hand, and said, I'm thankful for my mom because she didn't let mean people make her small. Everyone clapped. And for once, I didn't feel like a background character in someone else's celebration. I felt chosen. Later that night, when the guests had left and dishes were piled high, I got a call from a blocked number. I let it ring, but the voicemail came through. It was Madison. Her voice was hoarse.
Defeated.
Barely audible. I lost everything, Rachel. The board.
My job.
Friends won't return my calls. They say I lied, but I only did what I thought I had to. I don't know who I am without being better than you.
Click.
I deleted it. Not out of anger, but out of peace. She'd finally said it out loud. That everything she did wasn't about what she deserved, it was about who she feared I might become. And she was right to fear it. Because I became whole. Without her approval. Without their inheritance. Without pretending I was less just to make them feel more. I looked down at the ring on my hand, no longer a symbol of what was promised, but what was earned. I tucked my daughter into bed that night, and as I turned out the light, she whispered, Mommy, are we the real family now? I kissed her forehead. We always were. Because family isn't built in dining